it's just, I think, so common among success stories, and you talk a lot about like I forget the phrase that you use, Justin, but it's like this notion of like, well, what about all the people who failed? We only hear about the success
survivor's
stories.
bias.
Yeah, survivor's bias, right?
Huge in the startup world.
Yes.
My God.
Yeah. People who bet, in business, people who bet big win big, but you never hear about the people who bet big and lost. All you hear is like stories from the winners.
Yeah.
They're like, how did you build this company? Well, I took all of my life savings, I threw it at this idea, here I am.
Yeah, the graveyard's a lot bigger than the podium.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's the same in nature too, right?
Yes.
Like what we see, we're not recognizing, like in the last podcast, we talked about the trillions of microbes that are floating around in the soil. We don't see any of those things. We just see the trees and the lake and the birds and the eagles. It's like, there's so much more here that it takes that kind of occupying that space in between, or that holistic mindset, which I think are the solutions that we need in the market now to address the climate crisis. And I think that's a really interesting psychological shift, in terms of like how economics work and how business works in this kind of new era.
Yeah, completely agree. I love the way that you're bringing that together, because it is actually crystallizing for me one of the things that's kind of the state of the market that we're in. And you talk about that sort of that innovation struggle, where another kind of cliched one is, first they think you're crazy, then they attack you or argue with you, and then it's obvious, right? And what you're talking about is like some version of that journey to when it becomes obvious. And you think about that journey, that friction point that they think you're crazy and they fight you, that's essentially, you guys are just going to have the graphics department do up a diffusion innovation curve?
Absolutely.
Cool. Just overlay that. So here's your bell
right
curve.
over your head, right up here.
Oh, okay. Right up here. There's our bell curve. But like the chasm on that we're talking about, right? So you've got your innovators who are just always going to be out there, always going to be weird. We're always going to be thinking differently, and and that's okay. But there's a funny thing that happens with the innovators, that first 3.5% or whatever, and then the really early adopters that are basically just the innovators' buddies that are going to wait until they do the dumb thing a couple of times and find out if it works, and then they'll try it, but they don't need to really be convinced. And that's a slice of society, and that's a fun place to be. It's all the startup bros hanging out, like we're all just nerding out about this cool next thing, and we're all playing with AI like crazy and all that stuff, right? But the friction is, those are the ones that are happy being in that realm where they think you're crazy. Totally content. And if you want to stay in that realm, stay niche, stay front edge, you don't care about it necessarily having to scale or reach the broader population, that's a comfy, cozy place to be.
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm hiding out in rural Minnesota hanging out with you guys? It's nice. But the friction, the rub, is with the broader population.
Right.
And the rub is that place where you go, now we got to go through all this discomfort of, like, we get it in a certain way. The rest of the world probably doesn't. Most of our space right now lives in that comfy, now less comfy bubble of, all the innovators that are okay with being on the leading edge, and we're bumping up against that. How do we convert this to more mainstream with early adopters, where that's where the future lives or dies, is whether you can convert it from innovation to mass adoption. And that's, I think, what we're talking about, like the resilience and the anti-fragility and putting the pieces together. And like, I love living in that space, and my God, it's still sometimes killing me because you had so many people who get it, but then those innovators, because they're innovators and they're so excited about it, they get fixated on their way that it needs to be. And like, you need to care about it, but you need to care about it this way. You need to do something about it, climate, but you need to do it the right way, or for the right reasons. And then it's like, that's great, and capitalism and mass society.
Yep.
You know what the right reasons are?
Yep.
Making money, making my life more comfortable, whatever that personal motive is for anybody. But there are that many people that are going, I wake up every day thinking about climate and the future of agriculture and the planet and my role in it. That's not most people.
Yep.
How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to feed the kids? Today kind of sucks. How do I make it suck less? And like, hearing that nerd from HabiTerre complain about the climate is not making my life suck less. But you start to learn that, okay, if I totally let go of people caring about it for the right reasons. And I say, well, here's a corporation. There are a bunch of people working in that corporation that do absolutely care about it for the right reasons. They don't often hold the checkbook, right? So then you empower them to translate it into terms that their people are going to care about, and the people that cut the checks for budgets are going to care about. And there are plenty of really powerful corporate and pure capitalist motives to invest in this and do this work. You know, the resiliency of supply chains, de-risking, even consumer sentiment. Massive corporation, you move that consumer sentiment needle a tiny, tiny fraction, you'll pay for every investment you ever made in regenerative ag and climate. Yep. But people aren't doing that math because the people that sit in my chair are usually so stuck on, well, it's the right thing. Look at this happy farmer. Look at that happy soil. It's like, yeah, we like that too, but I can't justify a budget. Well, I mean, some justify a budget to put a picture of a happy farmer on a website, but like I can't justify a big budget to do that. And that's where you just got to kind of get over yourself and say, well, what's going to resonate with the audience that I need to engage, that I need to win.
Yeah.
That's easier said than done, for sure.